Hello, and welcome back to what can only be described as the Circus of Safety, Season 2, Episode 22. I don't know about you boys, I'm not superstitious, but that's a lot of twos. That is a lot of twos in that title.
I'm just glad someone's keeping count.
There's a name for that, isn't it? 222. I think it's called a double Nelson.
Double Nelson. Well, there we go. There's something to Google over the weekend. But hey, listen, firstly, Des, mate, how are you? You're looking pretty relaxed, actually.
I'm getting ready for the Christmas break. Getting into the Christmas party spirit, the corporate Christmas party.
Mate, it's not even December yet.
I'm already there.
You're already there.
Way ahead of me.
Checked out. I suppose you and Andy would be. I mean, this is what Andy used to do as a school teacher, right? I mean, he'd be checked out by now, like putting the jandals on, flopping it out, walking around with the flip flops on, doing the bits and pieces. So well, listen, I'm sure your employer expects a bit more out of you than just kind of turning up in board shorts and jandals, mate. So safety never sleeps, yeah.
That's true. Very true. How you doing?
Mate, I'm doing great, thank you. I was just saying, what a beautiful day here in Tamaki Makaurau. It is sun's out, guns out, that's for sure. 14 degrees already at 8:15 this morning. Yeah, boys, I've got the guns ready to go.
Wow. Look
Too big. Too big.
Yeah, casual Fridays, mate. Casual Fridays. Casual every day, actually. Fantastic. Mate, Andy, how are you today, fella?
I'm well. It's been a pretty tiring week.
What'd you work today?
I worked 4 days and I've done a lot of traveling. I've driven over 800 kilometers. So
wow. Well, that's what most people do in a week, mate. So welcome to the real world. Hey, listen, more importantly, how's our young apprentice? Is he going all right? Is he doing well?
He's going good. It's been interesting, an interesting week this week at school. It's been EOTC week, which for those uneducated is education outside of the classroom.
Nice.
And he was like, "Oh, Daddy, I'll check out on the safety aspects of it." And I said, "Well, it's funny you should mention this because only a few weeks ago the new ISO standard was released for school trips. So I think it's ISO 31031. I think it is." So last weekend we downloaded a copy of that and we went through it and we developed a quick audit tool. Nice. So before each day's activity starting, he's been doing a quick audit to make sure that things are safe. And the good news is that no one's been hurt.
Wow. Now, do you think that's directly attributed to the ISO standard or the audit that's taking place or the, I guess, what would be considered the lead indicators possibly being reported on?
I think it's probably a combination of all of them because, of course, we talk about multiple causation. So all of those things would have contributed in some degree. I think the fear of a 9-year-old standing there with the clipboard before any activity takes place probably might focus people's minds.
Yes. Now, here's a question. I'm really fascinated by this. Being in what I would consider, and Andy, I mean, you may agree or disagree with me on this, but I would consider myself as an EOT expert. I think I wouldn't claim to be an expert in many things, but that would be one that I would claim. What color was he wearing? A high vis vest, and if so, what color was said high vis vest? And I just wanted to kind of hone in on that a little bit.
He was wearing a yellow one.
Yellow one. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So had he considered the risk of bee sting, being swarmed by a bunch of bees?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, I really think you need to evaluate your teachings and your education of young Oliver. And maybe you need to hand the baton over to somebody like Des or myself that actually knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think he was more focused on the archery that they were doing.
Wow. Yes.
Rather than being stung by a bee, but I can understand that there's probably not a lot of difference in terms of the risk profile between those two things. And equal energy should be probably spent on safety around bees as it should be around archery.
Well, both could kill you, right? I mean, to be fair.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that should always be our starting point in any risk assessment.
Can you die? Yes, I can. Hell, I want to get out of bed in the mornings. Listen, what else is happening in the Evans household today? I believe there might be something. Might be a special day.
Oh, it might be a little bit of a party going on, but one of the things that was interesting is that clearly a load of packages arrived from the party, but one of the packages was addressed to the Circus of Safety.
Oh, hang on. You mean we've got a registered office?
Well, I didn't think we had, but apparently we have. So, this package, this box, I don't know if you can see that box.
Kind of. Yep. Oh, no, not now. Put it in front of you. Put it in front of you, Andy.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
It's a lovely grey box.
Grey box. Wow.
It's arrived all the way from the United Kingdom.
Wow. Okay.
And it's from a listener,
project manager in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, by the name of Christopher Luck. He's a project manager. Listens to the show. Oh my goodness!
I'm excited. Hang on. Firstly, is there enough for all of us?
No, there's one, but I'm more than happy to look after it. It is insanely amazing. Look at this. Circus of Safety play.
That's beautiful. Look at that.
Mate, that is going straight to the pool room.
Isn't that exceptional? So big shout out to Christopher Luck. Thank you so much for this. It'll be pride of place somewhere.
The pool room, mate. Send it to the pool room. Wow.
I might make some inquiries to see if we can actually sell these. Because I can't imagine people wouldn't not want them. I mean, it's...
Well, listen, Des, I don't know about you. I don't know what to say. Thank you, Christopher Luck, I guess. Listen, you know what? And in saying that, I think only one of those should ever be made. And
I think you're probably right.
and I think, Andy, you're the best person to hang on to it.
That is cool. I think maybe we should, I think there's potential for us to do something with that. I think
we need to get a marketing manager. So, wow.
So just a big shout out to Christopher and to anybody else that feels free to send us gifts. More than welcome to accept.
Andy, do you want me to put your address across the bottom of the screen?
No, please don't.
Love it. Okay, hey boys, let's get on with this. I've got Christmas parties to go to. So, Des, hit us with your disclaimer today, my friend.
Yeah, sure. Look, this week I've been inspired by the whole Christmas party theme, and one of my favourite parts of the Christmas party is the CEO speech when they come in and give a pep talk about the year that was, the year that's coming, and it's just full of all that amazing corporate jargon.
Nice.
So I thought I might piggyback off that concept and do our disclaimer this morning. So here goes. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reflect on another high-performing year here at the Circus of Safety, let's take a moment to celebrate the synergies we've developed, the best practices we've brainstormed, and the unprecedented banter we've delivered. Moving into the new year, we're doubling down on our commitment to value-added entertainment and strategic nonsense.
Yeah.
Please note that the views expressed today are strictly those of the hosts, our key stakeholders in chaos. Any lessons you take away are purely accidental and definitely not KPI aligned. So as we close out the year, let's raise a metaphorical glass to innovation, engagement, and whatever it is that Andy does. Here's to another year of safe-ish fun.
Wow. Yeah. I vote Des for CEO of the Circus of Safety. That was special. That was no other way to describe that, really. Absolutely special. Well, listen, boys, a little bit nervous. The wheel is getting very not a lot left on it. Some exciting stuff here. There's only, what I'm counting, 5 items, and I know Des is chomping at the bit for one of them.
I might finally get one of my topics in there. The chances get better every fortnight.
I was going to say, but you've only put one on. So, my advice to you, Des, for next year, to be a bit more successful, you need to contribute a bit more to the wheel. Just going to put that out there. But are we ready to see what we're talking about today?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Oh, here we go. Safety as a priority. And wow, I tell you what, I don't know about you, Des, but I am ecstatic. I'm excited about this. Let's go to you first, Des, because we know you've been waiting with anticipation. Is this one of yours?
No. Once again,
no.
No.
So, mate, listen, let's just stick with you for a minute. Sorry. Oh, this is too funny. I'm out. No, I have not been drinking eggnog at this point in time. There's when you hear something like that, when you hear the words "safety is our priority" or "safety as a priority," I mean, what are some of the first things that go through your head?
A few expletives. No, the first thing that it sounds like one of those. The word escapes me. It's a
Slogan.
Not jargon, slogan. It's like a slogan that often gets thrown around, and I think I'm throwing back to our show on safety jargon and slogans. It's doesn't mean anything if you don't back it up, and I've almost never seen it backed up. So I don't have a lot of time for things like that. I think they're virtue signaling nonsense.
I mean, this goes hand in hand with your with your CEO's speech. You just kind of rattled off, right? I mean, settings. I mean, it's almost like you'd kind of willed this topic to land on the wheel. Andy, jumping over to you, mate. I mean, you're a man of snake oil sales, and sales clearly going well for you this year. I mean, do you run around the countryside? I mean, when you hear this sort of stuff, what comes to mind for you?
Oh, dollars.
Okay. Anything other than that?
I get like it won't surprise anybody.
Oh, here we go.
In the absence of a clear, let's take it a step back. If Des didn't put this up and I didn't, it must have been you. Now, nearly everything that gets put on the wheel by you is put up in a fit of rage. So maybe we should hand it back to you and say, what was going on at the time when you put this up? Who were you irritated with, and what did you want to get off your chest?
Oh, mate, I'm just as I saw you where you're going with this and how you're going to throw it back to me. All I was thinking about is, do I really want to tick this episode is explicit when has got explicit content when I upload it to Spotify later on. Hogswallop is what I'm going to say. Again, I just don't understand how you could arguably say, feasibly, rationally, with any ounce of dignity, say that safety is a priority. A priority of a what, exactly? You know what I mean? And that's the first thing that comes to mind. And be interested to get your guys' thoughts on that. I mean, I don't want to harp on about Andy's definitions and whatnot, but, what is safety a priority of? Because if it's a priority, it means it's got to be in front of something else, right? Or it's got to be before something else. So what exactly is it in front of or before would be my first question. I mean, so Andy, sticking with you, mate, I know you try to turn this on me, but let's not forget our roles and responsibilities as per our job descriptions on the Circus of Safety. When you started hearing that, I mean, what do you think people are thinking of? I mean, I guess we're going to make a few assumptions on this show today, right? When you hear that safety is a priority, I mean, what would you suggest that maybe people are prioritizing safety over?
Well, it's over no safety, perhaps.
Maybe, yep.
I mean, you end up in an absurd argument there, but that's quite an interesting tack to go down. I think really safety, whatever safety is, you could generally cross-reference it against or map it against productivity and production. And I think there's a relationship between those two things.
But is that relationship a priority, do you think?
Well, if you prioritize safety over production, you'll go bankrupt. If you prioritize production over safety, eventually you'll kill somebody. So there's got to be this sort of happy medium between the two, if that's what we're talking about. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, but it sort of makes sense to me. Because if you're focusing entirely on making widgets, you're making widgets 24/7, and you're not doing anything else, I would imagine you'd have an accident. But if you focus on safety 100% of the time, you're not going to make anything, and therefore you'll go bankrupt. So at the extremes, it sort of makes sense. I'm not sure what that looks like in the middle, or what that balance would look like.
I mean, as a consultant, though, you generally operate in fear and scaremongering on the extremes, don't you? So it'll fit right up in that.
I genuinely try not to.
So you mean you're a consultant with a conscience? That's
well, no, I don't know if I've got a conscience, but I think that's to coin some sort of organizational speak. It could be my USP. Maybe is that I don't actually try and scare anybody of any unique selling point. That I don't try and scare anybody. It's not a tactic that I ever try and do. I'm not one of those. I mean, you remember when we worked for that training organization many years ago. There was a trainer doing the rounds there that used to start health and safety reps training by dragging a body bag into the training room and saying, "If you don't listen to what I'm telling you, this is what you'll be doing." And I never really bought into that.
I have found that effective in the boardroom a couple of times. What I find, although then there's a whole other risk associated with it, but you actually need a body in the bag. Like that's what I find to be most effective, right? And then you kind of get it up. You get a few people to help you get it up onto the table. Hopefully the table's rated, and then partway through the meeting, the bag starts to move. I tell you what, that is one hell of a Halloween party trick. I mean, when you start thinking about things like, so we know your opinion on it, but when you think, when that term comes across your desk or you see it on a contractor's documentation coming in, safety is our priority. I mean, what do you think they're prioritizing safety over? I'm really fascinated to dig it. I'm going to go down this road. I think today is what do we think they're prioritizing safety over?
I think I agree with Andy that it's either overproduction or over making money or something like that.
Yeah.
I just when I see that, I think, who are you trying to convince? Like, to me, if safety is preventing harm to people, for instance, that should be a given. So who are you trying to convince by saying that safety is a priority? It's like a used car salesman saying, "Oh, we're honest motors." Like, well, who are you trying to convince, buddy? Like, or a law firm calling themselves competent lawyers. That's a given.
Or a consulting firm calling themselves health and safety professionals. I mean, I guess Keith, long-time friend of the show. Hi, Keith. Good morning to see you. Seeing you this morning. H&S is a minor aspect of productivity. And I guess it sounds like we're all going down the same rabbit hole where we don't necessarily disagree with that statement at the moment. And I guess it goes back to our show where I thought, again, I was going to make the world circuit with this revolutionary concept. We've had safety 1, we've had safety 2, we've got the new view, we've got this hot stuff that we talked about, learning teams. I was going to go on the world circuit abolishing safety, right? It hasn't quite taken off. I'm still waiting.
Not safety 1 or safety 2, but safety none.
Safety none. Where have you been this entire time? Like, have you not been listening to me for the last sort of season 2 episodes?
Safety none.
Safety none. That's the new thing. That's me.
I can't believe Des, who's anti anything like this, has just come up with one.
He's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm gonna
use it as much as you like. Guys,
thanks, mate. Safety none. So I guess that's my worry is what do you prioritize it over? And I guess like Des was saying, my worry with prioritizing something is that you're suggesting that it's more important than something else. And we all know, right, for a fact that in a business, the reality is keeping the doors open is the most important thing, right? And that it's not a one or the other thing. And that's where, I guess that's where it's an interesting, becomes an interesting dilemma. So if it's not a priority, what would you call something? Would you say safety is a unison? I mean, is that something to consider? So would that suggest that maybe safety is on an equal playing field with everything else? Andy, I mean, you're a man of many words.
What?
Safety unison, is that the new phrase?
No, it's not. It's garbage. It'll never catch on. It's too many syllables.
Too many syllables. What's a syllable?
Top of a drum kit?
Yeah.
That'll make a crashing noise.
Okay.
this is getting a bit weird because we haven't defined any of the terms clearly, so we just end up sort of talking nonsense, really. So I agree that we don't know what safety is for starters, but if we go with Des's definition, it's about the prevention of harm. Well, I would imagine in most Western democracies, there is a significant emphasis placed upon the value of that. That the value of life is put pretty high. And how much that is a question that in many Western societies is not a polite conversation to have. But the reality is we sort of do it every day. You know, what's the value of a life? Well, there's some equations you can do it. You can go online and there's a website that does it. And it depends on what you rate as value. So things like your age, your likelihood of reproduction, how much tax you're likely to pay. So they map out what you're worth to society, and then you can give it a value. So if you've been really brutal about it in more sort of less Western democracy sort of countries where value isn't, where there's a clear value on life and it's not as high as we put it. But often in Western democracies, we talk about, well, you can't put a price on a life. And I'm sure both of you guys have heard that term.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the reality is we do all the time. But it's a long-term view because we're constantly convincing ourselves it's not going to be us that gets hurt or has the heart attack. You know, we're sat there eating out pies, laughing at other people that have heart attacks. You know,
Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think how did we start talking about reproductive value? Because
that's the value of a person. So you know, we say you can't put a price on a life. Well, if we stop saying and approaching it like that, I think we can have better conversations. But it's hard to do because it's not how we've been brought up. It's not how our culture works. It's very much saving life should be a priority.
And see, I'm going to stick with Keith on this one, mate. I think you're rattling off, and I don't know where you're going. You're going down some dark hole, but Keith seems to be kind of firing on all cylinders this morning. And maybe we should have got him on the show and left Andy with his plate. But doesn't matter how many people are saved if the world ceased to exist. And I suppose, to be fair, Andy, that's where you're kind of going, right? Like, but again, is this the conversation that people are prepared to have? Because at the end of the day, like Keith was saying, right, if we could have all, you could have all the safety measures in the world, but if nothing gets done, it does become a challenge. So safety. So here's a question, and I'm going to go to Des because he's a bit more of a thinker. If safety is not the priority, what is?
I think that.
Yeah, nice.
Saying that it's a priority, the use of the word priority is an interesting one because it does imply the existence of other priorities that are lesser. But priorities being plural is a recent invention as well. So the whole idea of there being multiple priorities is a recent thing in the English language. If you go rewind 150 years, people only talked about a priority in the singular because you could only have one priority at any given time. And I find that has changed a bit now. Everyone's kind of virtue signaling to these different priorities where the earth, the planet is our priority, the safety is our priority, our customers are our priority. Well, you can't have all of those things being your priority at any given time. You have to make concessions.
So, and does that go back to this whole we're probably going a little bit off track here, but the first thing that came to my mind as soon as you started, and that's why I went to you, Des, you're the thinker of the group, right? And you've really pulled apart this term safety as a priority. You've really analysed what I've tried to articulate here, and I guess by saying this, and maybe this is the misconception that safety is the number one, right? But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just one of many priorities, right? And is that kind of where you're going with that?
I guess that's one way you could take it.
Was that not the way you wanted me to take it?
Well, it's just there's this implication that there's other priorities, and if it's a priority, not the first priority, but if it's just a priority, then that means that it's going to be subject to some sort of concessions at some point in time, I want to know what those concessions are. If you're going to assert that safety is a priority, and there's other priorities around, well, explain to me when those other priorities are gonna take precedence over safety. That's probably where we're at.
Yeah, cool, awesome. I'm going to come back to you on this, Des, because I've written something down. And I'll tell you what. Oh no, now the chat's going. God, the chat's going off. But before we get to the chat, Andy, your thoughts? Has Des hit something here whereby by saying it's a priority doesn't mean it's the only priority, and maybe we misinterpreted this statement the entire time, and there are other priorities. What are your thoughts to that?
I think so. I think you've lavished praise on Des as being the thinker, and by default, downplayed my intellect. And all that Des effectively did was define something. Now, if we did a poll amongst our listeners, our loyal listeners, about who's the person that keeps banging on about the need to define things, I don't think Des or you's name would be top of that list. Yet when I suggest this, I get ridiculed. Yet when Des comes up with it, he gets bloody worshipped.
Because he's a real worker, mate. He actually works for a living. And so I take what he says with some validity.
This is tantamount to bullying.
Well, that's a whole nother show, mate. We'll come back to that one in a minute. So just before you get off your high horse for a minute, and
he's doing it again.
Can you just answer the question? Is Des actually right? Would he be suggesting that maybe when the term safety as a priority doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only priority, but it's one of many?
Yeah, so we're getting in the language of safety and the importance of language and precise languaging when we talk about things. So my initial understanding when this came up was this whole thing that you see about safety is our number one priority. That's where I was going.
Yep.
And I think we've meandered all over the place around that. And is safety ever really anybody's number one priority? And I think it might be at times, but rarely it is.
It makes a bit of a roller coaster, doesn't it? Welcome to the show to Robert Macaulay. Sorry, I hope I got that one right. What about changing priority to important? And again, I know people may think we're kind of delving into a little bit of semantics here, but I wrote down another topic for another show, maybe next year. Andy, you and I have talked about this, and I think maybe this is where Robert's going. Language is important, right? Because I subliminally wonder, near miss versus near hit reporting. And you and I have often joked about the irony between the difference between, if you're nearly missed, well, mate, you're actually hit. And if you're nearly hit, you're actually, what I mean? You know where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And while Derek Toner is absolutely correct in his statement, which shortly, but how important is the words that we choose to use when describing something, right? So you get up there and unless, you say those words, safety as a priority, does that infer to people that it is, and that's how I've taken it, and that's where you're going with it, that it's our number one priority, so therefore nothing else matters. But is that really what people are trying to say? Or are they trying to say it's as important as everything else? And I'd love to know how we interpret that. But just want to kind of friend of the show, well, not really, to be fair. Derek Toner's chiming in. I mean, to be fair, he turned up late. So let's be fair. If we're going to be disciplining anybody and we're disciplining our listeners, I think Derek Toner would be on the hit list. But he says he feels like he's turned up to disciplinary meeting for Andy. Well, Derek, I'm sorry you feel that way, but what we're just trying to do is shed light on the dark arts of consultancy. And make sure that these consultants are honest, truthful, and people are getting value for their return on investment. So Andy, I'm going to stick with you. We started going down this thing, and Des started kind of going on about safety maybe is one of many priorities, and the fact that he'd love to know what concessions we made. But I want to kind of bring up the concept of multitasking. As a learned individual, there's been tons of research
done.
It's too
late, mate. It's too late to be blowing smoke up my ass now.
There you go. You said a bad word, and now I've got to hit that explicit content. Thanks, mate. Thanks. Take your UPS and put that somewhere else.
UPS.
That's a thing, isn't it? So what's your thought on that? Multitasking. I mean, so there's a whole bunch of research out there that actually multitasking is not good. We can't multitask. So as soon as we start multitasking priorities, is that why maybe we've got a problem still? Because the reality is you can't juggle multiple things at the same time. I mean, what do you think about that and the impacts that concept of multitasking or our inability to multitask has on our safety performance?
That's a very interesting question, probably worthy of another show. I don't think the two things are discrete. I don't think work and safety are discrete. They're not separate entities. You can work safely, and that's just one thing.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the problems that we've got, and it pains me to say it, but the more time I spend with you guys, the more I do think that we should just abolish safety.
World tour, here we come.
Because I honestly don't think the term is particularly helpful. I think if we went back to talk about risk, we'd be in a much better position. And there's been such bad PR around safety. Everyone just blames health and safety for cancelling everything, when really it's not. It's just laziness or something
maintenance
else, maintenance or something. Yeah. So I think it's a tarred brand, so to speak, is safety. And I think it's perfectly possible to work safely. It's perfectly possible to have operations that are safe. I don't think the two things are separate. I don't think you work and then do safety. Well, I don't think you should.
But by pedestaling it, by putting it out there, by putting that term and by calling it out, do you think that's where the struggle becomes real?
Yeah, I think you try. Why do you say that? Why would you say something like safety is a priority? I guess it's primarily to keep it at front of people's minds, because safety is really about actions. And if it's at the front of people's minds, even if one person in the toolbox meeting that you say it in listens to it, you might save their life that day. I mean, you might not, but you might. It might make a difference to one person. The question then is it worth doing for that? We're tying it in. It's coming back to risk assessments and reasonably practicable. That's why the whole term reasonably practicable is there, because if safety was the priority, we wouldn't need reasonably practicable. Because it would be, you do everything, you eliminate the risk. If you can't eliminate the risk to harm, you don't do the work. Reasonably practicables come in there to give you that leverage and that scope, perhaps, to balance it against other things.
Yeah, cool. No, good point. I'm just kind of trying to digest that, and I definitely think we've got a whole nother show there for next year, because it's good, because things are looking pretty light. I didn't quite know how we're going to make it through next year at the moment. So well done. Thanks for that, Andy. Finally contributing to the show. The thing that
that's 4 today.
The never late, right? Never better late than never. Sorry, that's the saying I was looking for. Better late than never. Yeah, this is really a fascination. I mean, Des, any sort of additional thoughts from you? Sorry, not to you.
I think, to expand on my point earlier, I think saying something like safety is a priority is like saying not committing crimes is a priority. And it's about as equally meaningful to me that not committing crimes is a given. We shouldn't have to discuss that. It should just simply not be on your table of things that are going to happen. So safety should have that sort of same level of, it's already taken as a given. You're going to be safe. Now we're talking about what it is we're going to do. That's where I'm coming from. It's like saying, well, you're not committing a crime is my priority.
Yeah, this is becoming an incredibly intellectual conversation, which is probably blowing me out of the water, to be fair. But I think we're touching on some really good stuff, and I think, again, it comes back down to that language piece, right? And being mindful of the words that we are choosing to use to describe what we're trying to achieve. Because, I mean, and it's interesting how people elevate things. And I guess I know, just talking about psychosocial risk, for example, right? If we start, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be focusing on that, but as soon as you start putting not buzzwords, but you start elevating a particular priority, does that mean that we shouldn't focus on the other things. And as a society, this is getting quite deep and meaningful. I'm sorry, guys. As a society, is that just the nature of what we do? We're constantly in this tug of war between priorities and what's more important. And suddenly something becomes more important than something else because we can't multitask. We take our eye off the ball, say with health as a classic example, again, in the term health and safety, we often forget about the health aspect. And then all of a sudden there's this push to focus on health. And then does that mean we take our eye off the safety ball? And then we take our eye off the safety ball, then suddenly that becomes a push, Are we going to be in this consistent tug of war around priorities and what we prioritize over other things? Which again, I think that the concept of abolishing this new concept that I'd like to trademark, safety none, is definitely going to take off as we look to try and even out the playing field, right? Because I think it's the challenge is what's more who's, and that's another question, right? And I don't think we've got the time on the show today to answer this, but who has the decision making power, the right as such to prioritize one thing over the other, right? And also when we start looking at human, what's important to me isn't necessarily important, clearly not important to Andy, possibly important to Des. And you start getting into this whole quite a complex thought, right? Yeah, so there we go. So Des, just to kind of wrap up the topic on safety as a priority. I mean, if you were to give somebody, some young up and coming safety professional that is looking to, chant this mantra, what would you be saying to them? What's the key watch outs? The key just be mindful of moments from you, Des.
Well, if I was being blunt, I'd just simply tell them to stop saying that.
A man of many words. Just stop it, right? Stop it now.
But I'd probably ask them to explain what that means. So safety is a priority among what other priorities are we talking about, and why do you feel the need to say that?
Yeah.
If you are juggling multiple things at different times, then as Andy said, we're in the realm of risk management, and we're talking about opportunities and costs, and that's a different conversation. But why do you feel the need to say that? Why is it not just a given?
Yeah, cool. No, fair enough. Andy, I mean, your thoughts. If you were, out there on one of those a few occasions that you're working, and somebody suggested to you that they were going to roll this out as a mantra, as such. I mean, or they said this to you in a passing conversation. I mean, what would your words of wisdom be to them?
Possibly listen to Des. Don't do it. I mean, it might add value. I don't know. It depends on the audience. But what's wrong with saying work safely? I mean, that for me, that's really what all these things are trying to achieve, is get people to work safely. And that's just a nice, simple thing. Remember, work safely. Like, be safe. That doesn't mean anything, but work safely. Actually, that means something. I don't know. It's just, there's just words just appear and phrases.
You could roll out a whole bunch of bumper stickers, right? Work efficiently, work cost effectively. I like that. It's got a good ring to it. We should get that.
And you could do Venn diagrams, because I reckon they'd all overlap at some point. If you're working safely, you're probably working efficiently.
Well, there's a whole bunch of research on that by some really smart people, isn't there, around that the triangle where everything, you can't have one without the other, right? And I guess that's my worry about trying to prioritize. The reality is you can't prioritize one thing over the other, right? But the hard part is
you could though, because within an organizational context, if you've got an organization where safety is absolutely crap and no one cares about it, then there's nothing wrong with prioritizing that to lift it up for a short period of time. Right? So you could do campaigns and stuff, which is what we do.
But I just had this thing come to my head, and Andy, being an EOTC, purveyor of the fine art of EOTC, you'd recognise. Remember that activity where, and it's always a challenge, and it's a great one with corporates, right? Where you got the stick of bamboo, and you all got to put your finger out, and as a group, you've got to bring it bring it down together and not have your fingers leave the stick. I mean, that's what's coming to my mind, right? It's that constant balancing act of trying to bring everything and keep everything aligned, right? Across the whole levitating stick, I think that's what it might have been called.
It's a brilliant activity. It's a really, really brilliant activity if it's well facilitated.
Yes, well, that's a whole other topic for a whole nother show. But listen, I think that's a wrap on the topic there of safety as a priority. And as you can see, our thoughts are really much along the lines of if you head down that rabbit hole, head with caution and a bright light to ensure that what you're saying is coming across as you mean it. And yeah, I guess we're sounds like we're all on the same page where we're laying down a blanket of caution over the use of such terms. But wow, that was a little bit more interesting than I've really got to get over this throwing things on the wheel in anger. So because by the time I get to talk about it, I've lost the care factor. To be fair, I'm like a duck with water off my back on most things. But I mean, exciting times coming up. I didn't get a chance. We had a bit of a long intro, and I didn't get a chance to mention some exciting stuff coming up. Now, Andy, finally, looking forward to this. I've just registered myself actually. On the 4th of December, you will be joining. It's about 3:00 New Zealand time. Alexandria Garland from Sign On Site. Des and I have had the pleasure. And finally, you're stepping up to take one for the team and actually getting out there and doing some work.
Yep, I'm very excited about it, and I've started reading and doing plenty of prep for it. It's an interesting topic that we'll be discussing. Which is not too dissimilar to what we've been talking about today, actually.
I was going to say, I don't think I could have thought of a better person to talk about safety paying off and how to maximize profits through safety. I mean, as a consultant, right, you would be well versed with how to rip people off, mate. So,
I really object to that. That's a step too far, Brenton.
I'm going to throw another slogan at you. The truth hurts, mate.
That's 5 today. That's 5.
I can't wait to hear this because I know I'm constantly on the bones of my ass because safety, as we all know, doesn't pay. And so I'd love to hear how to make some money out of this. This thing we call safety. So
I think you've slightly misinterpreted the title, but
no, I don't think I have. I'm going to be in there with the Q&A session going hard. So you better be prepared. That is some exciting stuff coming up on the 4th of December, thanks to our friends at Sign On Site. Another thing too, I'm just going to do a bit of self-promotion here, gentlemen. I'm really excited. NZISM, the New Zealand Institute of Safety Management. Myself and Greg Dearsley, friend of the show too. He's been a guest on our show. We're going to be looking on the 5th of December, so that's the following day at 12 noon in the NZISM Governance Forum. Really excited to be doing a co-presentation with Greg on international governance, where we're going to be kind of looking at what our understanding of governance is at a local level. How does that fundamentally compare to governance at a global stage, and the key aspects of successfully navigating international governance. Some big stuff coming out there.
I can't wait to tune into that one.
Oh, mate, I think you've got to be it's an invite only, so I don't know if you're invited. I know Des is invited, so I can't wait to get some positive contributions from Des in the audience on that one. But again, a great month of the team, youth, the three of us getting out there and doing our bit for the industry and trying to help out and talking about helping out. I just want to thank, again, as we do on every show, we've had a real spike in... Oh, Greg, get off it, mate. Sorry, I've just seen this. Greg, I just called you a friend of the show. And then you come out with a comment like that. I mean, really? You and I are supposed to be working together and actually catching up later this afternoon. So there'll be words said, Greg. There'll be words said. Listen, we've had a real bump. I don't know what's going on. We've had a real bump because we're not doing anything different, but a real spike and bump in followers. So a massive thank you to all of you for what I don't know yet, but thank you nonetheless. And this week I'd like to thank and welcome to the family Susan Crosby, a health and safety professional based out of Christchurch. We've got to get down to Christchurch, boys, for a live show, I think. Currently a senior health and safety advisor at Oceania Retirement Villages, I believe is what that is. And I'm actually already on the hunt for a retirement village because I can't wait to lock myself into one of those puppies. Happy hour, the social activities, it's going to be great. So welcome to the show, Suzanne, and thanks very much for tuning in, and thank you to everyone on the live chat for jumping in. Great to have the interaction, which again I think makes our show quite unique. Gentlemen, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I agree.
I haven't listened to any others, so I can't comment.
That's a whole other show. Do you listen to other podcasts? Anyway, listen, that's a wrap for us. Des, I mean, mate, anything exciting? We know you've already checked out of work for the year. Anything exciting coming up in the next couple of weeks for you?
No, just prepping for Andy's actual disciplinary meeting. It might all be for naught though, because he knows what he's done, and yet he persists in doing it. So,
and it's all recorded, right? Like it's not like there's anything to hide. Yeah, nice one. Do you need a support person in that meeting?
I think I might, but it's usually the other way, isn't it? Normally, the one receiving the disciplinary needs a support person.
Yeah, I'm bringing Brenton.
And we'll do it. So the meeting will be scheduled for 2 weeks' time on a Friday at 8:15. That could be a whole show in itself. Andy's disciplinary meeting. Andy, mate, what are you up to in the next couple of weeks? Don't tell us working. You've probably already closed the doors for the summer period, mate.
No, I'm actually quite a bit of work on. After Christchurch next week, got a day with a client down there, and then 2 days at the Test match, England versus the Black Caps.
Oh, nice. Well, say hi to Suzanne. She's out of Christchurch. Maybe you could reach out and do a Circus of Safety meetup or something. Apparently, that's the thing that all these safety things are doing. So,
yeah.
a Circus of Safety meetup.
I'll be taking a bit of merch down with me as well.
Nice.
So, and just I guess with Christmas just on the horizon, for our listeners out there, don't forget, if you're looking for a gift, get on the website. There's merch there. We've sold a bit more this week.
Nice.
There's no plates available yet, but watch this space.
I tell you what, I'm keen. I'm going to be buying me my own Christmas gift to myself, one of the amazing hoodies that we've got available on the website. So jump on over and make the most of it. But again, listen, gentlemen, as always, been nothing but a pleasure. Hopefully, if nothing else, I've had a great time. Who cares about everybody else? So yeah, till the next time, I really hope you all have a great weekend, and yeah, talk soon.
Thanks. See you next time.
So yeah.